All Might's catchphrase is, "I am here." But in chapter 222, after no hero tried to help Shigaraki, All For One tells Tenko Shimura, "I am here." Why? Why would the story's main enemies use the same catchphrase? Why would All Might say "I am here" while saving civilians, and at the same time, All For One says it when saving Tenko? Was the villain merely making fun of All Might? Was he signaling that he would be the hero Tenko needed? Or is there a deeper, more sinister reason behind Horikoshi's inclusion of the phrase? For years we've been speculating about who the Real U.A traitor actually is. Aoyama, Hagakure, Principal Nezu. But throughout the entire story, we've never really gotten any closer to figuring out who it is, with the story seemingly forgetting about the traitor even existing for long stretches at a time before reminding us that there still is one. And more recently, it seemed like we had finally figured it out, due to Nezu knowing too much about Shigaraki's new enhanced quirk and making moves to counter it months before anyone told him about it, with him brushing the accusations off as mere intuition. But what if it was someone no person would ever suspect? None of us, and definitely not anyone in the story. What if the Real U.A traitor has been All Might all along? All Might, the 8th user of One For All, might actually unknowingly be All For One's biggest pawn. I mean, just think about it. He's the only person constantly in contact with Deku. He's one of the few people who's always up to date on what's happening with the villains, even though he's no longer in action. He's the only person directly in contact with Tsukauchi. When Stain broke out of Tartarus, he went directly to All Might and gave him the information he had gathered, even though he was no longer the hero Stain respected. During their interaction in chapter 326, we also saw the statue of All Might, which the last woman he ever saved regularly cleaned, had a sign that said, "I am not here," which is obviously referencing the fact that the All Might everyone looked up to and depended on no longer existed. But it could also be Horikoshi's subtle way of telling us that All Might is unknowingly working for the villains. All For One implanted a bomb in Lady Nagant when he gave her airwalk, and he probably has countless quirks we don't and will never know about. So what's stopping Horikoshi from revealing that during the fight that left both of them mortally wounded, All For One implanted some sort of mind control device into All Might? We know that Horikoshi likes to hide things in plain sight, things that have been in the story since the beginning. And while this isn't confirmed, what if the hands Shigaraki wears, the hands that are supposedly his family's, were actually receivers for All For One to communicate with Shigaraki's vestige world, allowing him to escape from Tartarus even though he was 500 meters below the ocean? Both of these things are plausible and tie into the fact that All For One is always boasting about how he's planned ahead, and it always seems like he knows exactly what's going to happen before it does and is able to use literally any situation to benefit himself. The villain also seemingly gets stronger and stronger every chapter, now almost taking over Shigaraki's perfected body and probably stealing Star and Stripes' quirk in the next few chapters. But what if even with all this power, he wants an extra contingency plan to defeat Deku and steal One For All? One For All is a power created specifically to defeat All For One, and assuming that the villain takes this literally, having All Might betray Deku, his students, the pro heroes, Star and Stripe, and practically the whole world would be his greatest trump card ever. We've seen how the people of the My Hero world react to the hero's defeat, constantly blaming and hating them for losing when those same people depend on the heroes for literally everything. But unlike Endeavor, All Might would now be able to recover from a blow like this even if it wasn't his fault. Should All For One take over Shigaraki's body and steal Star and Stripes' quirk, he'll probably be strong enough to destroy Deku, but he wouldn't even need to try that hard if All Might was revealed to be a traitor. The amount of panic and mass hysteria this would create would destroy the hero association from the inside out, leaving no certainty for anyone on who they can and can't trust. Another point that should be mentioned is that after All For One and One For All's battle, Sir Night told All Might that one day he'd fight a villain and die an unspeakable death, which confirms that he won't die against Stain, and will instead be killed in an extremely cruel and gruesome way by All For One. Or maybe the death Night was referring to was less literal, but actually something much worse, him being revealed as the traitor. Whether he was aware of it or not, it would force the heroes to at the very least capture him, and the death Night was referring to could have been him losing everything that kept him alive in the first place, his friends and his students. Something that I know people will bring up is why wouldn't Night tell the heroes about All Might being a traitor? And there's actually a couple reasons. The first and most obvious one is that the further into the future Night looks, the less accurate the details are. Night quirk also works like a roll of film. He sees the future in a third-person perspective, but he can't hear anything that's being said. So even if he did see All Might working for All For One, he could never be sure. And that's the exact reason why he didn't tell All Might the exact date, time, or villain he would die to, just that it would be an unspeakable death. Second, he had no proof. It wouldn't matter if he could see into the future with 100% accuracy. All Might was the #1 hero for over 30 years, and with all the good he did not only for Japan, but the world, Night Eye would just look insane if he said that All Might was working with the person he had been trying to defeat for years. And the last point is that Night Eye is able to miss subtle details when using foresight, and it might just be because of the third-person nature of his quirk or because of other reasons. But when Deku was trying to do his work study at Night Eye's agency, Night Eye didn't notice until later that while jumping all over the room, Deku intentionally evaded every piece of All Might memorabilia. So it's quite obvious that at this point in the story, the greatest blow to the heroes and the world would not be All For One taking over Shigaraki's perfected body, or even him stealing Star and Stripes' quirk, New Order. But in reality, it would be All Might being revealed as the UA traitor who had been unintentionally aiding All For One in his plans. So let me know what you think about this. Could All Might be the UA traitor? And if not, let me know who you think the real UA traitor really is. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.